Let's just go ahead and get this party started. My name is Kelly Murray. I am the Chief Engagement Officer with the Consortium for Service Innovation. I am joined today by the whole consortium staff, which is so fun. There's just six of us. You will see us all listed as co-hosts if you're looking for any of us, along with our presenter Patrick today and Caroline from VisionWillow. Let's see. The consortium is a not-for-profit industry association. We are the caretakers of the knowledge-centered service methodology. So KCS is the thing that we look after, and we are in the midst of getting ready for our biggest event of the year, which is our annual summit. It'll happen at the end of April. That's this month. It happens in 3 weeks in Scottsdale, Arizona. If you're coming, we can't wait to see you. If you are not able to make it, there's a whole list of upcoming events on the consortium calendar. And one of those is a recap from Summit. So come and join us in May and we'll talk about all the great things that we are going to talk about at Summit. We'll do a little recap. One of those things is the new version of KCS. And so there's also a couple of other events on the calendar. One is talking about the new era of KCS that happens later in May. We have another couple of KCS in action calls. And then if you're interested in membership, we'd love to talk to you about it. Membership is how all of this work gets done. And so there's a handful of events that are open to the public, like this one. There's a handful of events that are just for consortium members. Which go a little deeper and are about a whole handful of topics, including everyone's favorite AI. We are recording this session today. We will send out an email afterwards with the recording. If you have a moment to change the way your name shows up in Zoom, which is by rolling over those three little dots over your picture, that can be really helpful in terms of if you have any questions that you want to put in the chat. It's fun to see where people are from, company-wise. If you do have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. That is open and available for this presentation. And then there will be time at the end for a little Q&A session. And I think those are all of the things I wanted to tell you about before passing it off to Patrick from the University of Copenhagen and Caroline supporting him from VisionWillow. Thanks very much.
Great. I will share my presentation here. Also do this. Probably switch the screens. Yep. Okay.
Beautiful.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Patrick, and I'm going to talk about building KCS at scale at a university department today, and what we have been experiencing for the past few years. So as I said, my name is Patrick Thams-Dimon. I am the knowledge manager at UCPH IT. And my day-to-day is that I am also the KCS program lead, where I handle the strategy for the knowledge management, where we have a focus on KCS. And in that regard, I work a lot with the management on progress and where we should focus our efforts. And to support that, I'm also responsible for the data and reporting part of the whole adoption and the ticket management process, and do dashboards and the communication plan. So a bit of everything. A bit about UCPH IT. We support approximately 50,000 plus people across students, researchers, external, you name it. Everything that has some sort of affiliation with the university is someone we support. The IT staff across the entire organization is about 400, and we have one KCS manager, that is me, and I don't have a knowledge management team or colleagues, so it's just little old me running our KCS adoption and knowledge management. Back in autumn 2023, we started with a pilot, basically for the KCS adoption, where we had 9 supporters chosen, really driven supporters that saw the light in KCS and wanted to be a part of this. So I took over this adoption back then in autumn 2023, along with a colleague of mine who was a communication specialist. And we trained the 9 supporters to work with KCS, and just like the whole idea about the theory about KCS and how we work with it, and what what we're going to do in this pilot of the adoption. And in spring 24, I forgot to mention that in autumn 23, we also started we had a big administration reform coming, so a big restructuring of the entire university. And that started in spring 24. So that ran parallel with this pilot, where everyone was told that all projects were ordered to stop and KCS was not permitted to continue. But we continued due to the lack of knowledge. We weren't told by my former manager that we were supposed to stop. So we continued and actually built a case based on the pilot. And when we talk about this with the lack of knowledge, there's this beautiful quote that is very true in that sense, that the single biggest problem with communication is the illusion that is taking place. When we then came to a bit further into the pilot, we could see that we needed to start to expand because the participants were like spread out over the entire university. So they were like the one person in the team that was working with KCS, and that started to really take a toll on their engagement because the colleagues got frustrated and we had no data to show progress or anything like that. So we really worked hard to get this pilot approval going, so we could expand on the KCS adoption. And we also had a big emphasis on that if we stop now, even though if we had the big administration reform, KCS would be dead on arrival. We have had a lot of projects and adoption attempts across the many years I've been here where it never really happened. So it kind of we needed to keep going to make KCS happen here at the university. So when we came to that conclusion, we made a full evaluation of the pilot, and we got a green light to actually expand the whole adoption to all of the supporters. So we went from 9 supporters to 65 across the entire IT support, which was then distributed to across different coaches. The 9 pilot participants became coaches because that was also something they were really interested in. So we thought, why not? We then trained them up to be coaches, and we distribute everyone amongst those. And that happened between May and August in 24. And in spring 25, my colleague who was doing the adoption left for another role. So the KCS ownership became mine and mine alone. And what was really cool was that we actually have built up the foundation, so the infrastructure of KCS, the adoption health, we could keep on going without anything falling apart, even though we basically lost half of the adoption team in a very short time. But one of the obstacles that I then were facing was that I had a directive to prove benefits, and we didn't have any data, so that was really difficult. And we also had a big like a massive organizational change going on. So all resources were kind of pulled everywhere. And most important, I had no experience in actually driving an adoption of this size, and I had no experience in how to move the adoption from where we were to where I wanted us to be. So what really happened was I went up to the management team and said, I need help. I cannot do this alone. It is not feasible for me to actually do this all by myself. Which take me to the next point is that before, I was basically running blind. I was trying what I could see in the moment was right, but that was more reactive than proactive. And I was alone about it, so I had no one to actually spar with. I had no one to talk to about it. We didn't have any data, and everything was hidden, kind of, because again, we didn't have data. We didn't know how we were doing. So I went up and said, I need help because this is not going to go if it's me alone. And I got a go to actually get help. So I built a business case, and that got approved. And after that, I got in contact with VisionWillow, where I got Caroline Rippl on board, which was a massive turnaround for the entire adoption, which was I'm very grateful for that. So we actually got a KCS consultant that had real live hands-on experience, which meant a lot to just actually getting a sense of direction on where to go from this. And one of the first things we did was we actually went back. We went back to why are we doing this? Because while we were doing this adoption, my manager got replaced. So we actually got a new sponsor, which what hasn't really been introduced correctly into the whole KCS adoption. So we went back to the why, and we went through the strategic framework with the new sponsor and got that validated, which also helped with the additional buy-in from the from the other senior management teams. But other than that, we also had no data. So the whole idea about what to measure when we started to talk about that was a new gift to unwrap. So we also defined what to measure and, more importantly, what not to measure. Which the what to measure was not really too difficult, but it was more the what not to measure. There was a lot of areas in that category that a lot of both the management teams and all that would like data on, where it was that was not would not be any helpful to the adoption. As you all know, we don't measure on activities, and that was primarily what many of them suggested. So we actually learned what to measure, and that was also a very big step forward. So after we defined that, we started to build dashboards. So we built separate dashboards for both me and the management. Then the coaches got some a different set of dashboards, and knowledge workers got some dashboards. At the beginning, we had a very what do you want to call it? Very simple dashboard. We basically took and compared tickets where we compared them with were used with KCS and without KCS, so we can see the direct comparison. That later then became global data, so we could see it across the entire IT organization and how it actually compared to everything. And it also with the quantity and quality, and we could also then explain the details about the data was actually calculated to increase transparency for everyone. So it was very important that nothing felt hidden when it came to our benefits or when it came to what we have actually achieved during the adoption. And then we also had to learn to read data. I thought I had a pretty good grasp on how to read data. It turned out I was very green in that area, but I became good at it, and everyone started to become taught how to actually read the data correctly, and more importantly, also to use it. which then goes into the focus on the individual engagement. Before I had help, a lot of the engagement were very team based, and that can take you a little bit of the way, but not very far. When we started to talk to individuals about their engagement and also about how they actually contributed to the greater whole, basically, we could see that there was a completely different mindset that changed. It suddenly became this drive to actually wanting to do more and not just be in the background. You were suddenly in the front seat when you were talking to a coach, or you were talking to, yeah, mainly a coach was the when or me for that matter. I also did some coaching at the beginning, but I also had an open door. So if people wanted to come with suggestions or anything, they could come to me and ask me about anything. So the engagement changed a lot. The mindset towards the adoption changed a lot. And then we also focused on coach development because we thought that we had a pretty solid idea about coaching. It turned out we did. So when we started to get coached on being coaches, that also changed a lot, and also just how we actually approached the individual in a coaching scenario and a coaching session. And what really happened with all these things was that instead of people were asking, "Is this actually worth it? Is this working?" I actually also got the question once, "Are we still doing it?" They started to be able to see that this was working, that this was actually something that benefited not just themselves but their team and the entire support staff. So they started to really get that drive to become like, okay, where can we improve this? And I've gotten a lot of emails about how could we could improve it in the workflow. So that has been amazing to see that turnaround from being like, yeah, that's fine, to actually, okay, can we do this or this or this? That has been very exciting. Well, basically, we had to build the whole adoption up from the ground. When I took over the adoption, it wasn't really an adoption; it was more like a proof of concept to begin with. And we had a design of how like another article should be, but that was basically it. The adoption in itself we had to design from build from the ground up. So we started out by anchoring it in the workflow. So we really wanted to make sure that people understood that this was not like an extra step after the fact. This was something you did while you were troubleshooting. This was something you did while you were handling the ticket. So it wasn't a separate whole process. It was embedded into the existing ticket management process. And once that realization, and they started to actually see, okay, while I'm doing this, I'm actually contributing. That also changed a lot about the whole outlook on what this was. And then we also had the coaches in the workflow, so it was their colleagues that coached them. So when you had a coach, so let's say you were at the Faculty of Health, you had a coach there as well, and you could actually ask the coach if you had just had a question or if you were in doubt of something, so you could get real-time feedback on what you were doing instead of having to write it down or remember it for the weekly meeting and then maybe forgetting half of it or why you actually wanted to ask the question. So that also did a lot, that the coaches was someone that was doing the same work as themselves. Um, so yeah, then we also made the progress visible with the dashboard. We made sure that everyone had different, not everyone had different dashboards, but management had one set of dashboards. The coaches had another set of dashboards, and then the knowledge workers had a dashboards about themselves. Um, and that also helped a lot with the ease of access to data, because they didn't have to write me an email where I then had to draw up a report and then send it to them. They could just log in and see it anytime they wanted. and it also really increased the transparency about everything. So when I went out to a big meeting and said, we are doing great, we are doing this and this progress, and we have made these steps and this milestones, they could actually see that what I was saying was true because it was the same data that they were looking at. Um, so that was also pretty cool to actually see the usage of data. And we also had the different levels of visibility. As I said, that managers and coaches had different dashboards, and that's because the managers could see team-based data or global-based data, but they could not access individual employees' data, and that was the whole point. The individuals' data was meant for the coaches and only meant for coaching. So it was only meant for training and for to see in a coaching session how is that individual progressing. Is there anything that they might have some trouble with that we need to focus on so we can teach them how to actually do it? It could be everything from some forgetting like a part of the process or whatever. It was basically just to for focus on training and how to become better at things. And the managers just had team wide data, so they could see, okay, my team is doing great in this department, but we need to focus a bit more on a different department, and they could then talk about that. And then a part of that, we also had also a part of the make the progress visible was also that the managers started to talk about or communicate about the benefits and the focus areas with the staff. Which brings me over to the fourth column, is that we also I also very much emphasized that we need to celebrate all the small victories that we could see. So when we saw that there was a big jump in reuse, then that was a point of celebrating. When we see that one team has moved from, let's say, with a link accuracy of 70% to 92%, then that was also something that was celebrated. And it actually became such a big part of it that the managers pulled together and took all the supporters in the different teams out to celebrate with pizza and beer, and they also invited all the coaches to recognize their effort in actually making sure that we got the far as far as we have got. So that is also a point of emphasis that this is something that only lives because people are actually doing this and are working in this method. So yeah, that was a very important thing for me that they remembered to celebrate. So I became very happy that when they took everyone out to celebrate the last year's progress. And um, and we also start to support more incentive towards quality. In the beginning, before I actually knew what I was doing, we had a bit more emphasis on quantity because we had an idea that we need to fill up the knowledge base. But when I then became wiser, then we shifted that over to quality because quality is king in this aspect. And to show a little bit about the some of the things that we actually achieved in last year. We at the beginning of the year we had a full link rate, so that's across all the tickets of 18%, and we ended the year on 64% for the yeah link rate. And at the par link accuracy at the beginning of the year, we didn't have link accuracy measured. So with the par link rate, we then ended up with a score of 97%, which was amazing. Um, and our average time to resolve went from a 4.6 days to 1.4, which was super impressive to me because this is only based on 65 IT supports working with KCS across 400 IT staff. So that just shows like the power of KCS basically, what it can do when you actually have the right the right drive to get this and the right foundation to get this running. So yeah, we basically cut down our average time to resolve across all of our tickets by 2/3. So no, yeah, 2/3. So that's very cool. And the first contact resolution went from a 51% up to a 76%, and we peaked at 84. So the 76 was as our average. Um, and another thing we also managed to do last year was that our coach group became self-managing under a lead coach, because we introduced a lead coach last year, which is also one of the coaches that is lead coach. And we also introduced coaching for managers, which was also a very big step in the right direction with the adoption, since now they were taught how to actually not only read the data but actually use it to talk into different things that they can see and present it to the IT staff. And based on these numbers, I will show a bit about some of the dashboards that we are actually looking at when we talk data. So this is the dashboard. This is the dashboards that we are using, and what you can see here is that this is like the global KCS data, and but just to give a brief rundown about what you're looking at the top of the screen, you can see you have different tabs. We have the home tab that is basically an explanation tab on how is everything calculated. So how do we get data for everything? Then we also have the Ivanti tab, which is our ticket management system tab that is primarily built around our strategic framework, but I will get into that a bit later. Then we also have the weekly reports, which is more specific data on like phone queries and stuff in that regard. Then we have the KCS tab that we can see here, where we get a team-based overview. Right now, just to talk a bit into that, on the right side, you can see that we have some drop-down menus. That is our filters, where if I am the manager and I want to see how is my team doing, I can choose my name under the manager tab, and I can choose my team under the team tab or the team drop-down. And we do also have managers that have multiple teams, so they can check off the teams that they are managing and see how are they doing. If they want specific data on, let's say, walk-ins, they can choose that in the source dropdown and see how does our team-based data look like when it comes to walk-in queries. And also they can see roles, so they can see how is my candidates actually doing so far, what's the progression, and also what is the progression of the contributors, which is very cool, and they're very happy to actually have that level of detail once it comes to all the data. And then we also have the KCS month, where it's more specific about 1 month, and it goes a bit more into some of these aspects. So it's a little bit more of a concentrated overview. Then we have roles that shows everything from who is in what role, how many do we have in different roles, when did they achieve that role, when were they certified or are they certified, what coaches are assigned to them, and so on and so forth. So they can get a full overview about the progression in the promotion state of KCS. So they can see, okay, if we have a lot of candidates, then cool, we also had a lot of new employees, so that makes sense. Or if someone needs to maybe be moved up because someone maybe forgot to tell someone, that can happen in the busy day-to-day life. But at the end of these tabs up here, we also have the KB, which is the knowledge base. So that gives a general overview of the knowledge base, of like how many articles do we have that are confident, how many do we have that are not confident, how many do we have that is work in progress, and so on and so forth. So this is basically what the managers look at when they look at the team-based data. And they can see everything from the par link accuracy, the link rate, creation and modification. But if I were a coach, as I said before, they have had a different view. They would see something like this. They would look at this for the coaching sessions, where they can bring up a specific individual's data. So they can take one of their coachees and say, I either need to prep for the coaching session, and then look at this data to see, okay, we had these and these assignments with the tickets, and I had these comments, so I want to bring that up. And then during the coaching session, they can also use this to actually look at the comments that they have made on the different assessments. And one cool little detail about that is that if they can remember exactly what the ticket was about, because it's just a number in this, they can right click it and then get a direct link to our ITSM system where they can see the ticket. So they can get a better grasp about what they are coaching in. But yeah, they can use this to look at the different data, and this is a good example when we look at the par modification rate. That is all yellow. At first glance, the first thought would be like, oh no, what has happened? But then you look next to it that this is based on 2 opportunities. So this person has missed 2 opportunities, and that's why it is all yellow. So when you look at that, you can be a bit more like, okay, that happens. It could be a busy period, so I'm not going to dwell too much into that. Now, if that has been like 10 opportunities, just to say something like that, then that could be something where that could be a talking point during a coaching session, because it could be something in like the process or something that has been misunderstood, or it's just harder for the individual to actually work with. And then we need to try to actually meet that person's needs so they can actually do this without feeling any sort of pressure or stress about doing this. That's not the point of it all. And then we have at the end, we have the Evanti, so the ticket management system data. This was initially built on our strategic framework, where it started out with the comparison that I talked about earlier, where it showed what was used with or without KCS, and we could show directly. And later it was built out to show global data. We still do have a bit of comparison if we look at the cycle count. I don't know if you can see my mouse actually, but if we look at the cycle count, we have the dark blue one is with when an incident has been used with an article, and the light blue one is when it's without. So when a clear sign of this is that when you use the articles, they don't get nearly as many reassignments as they do if you don't use an article. So that's also some of the benefits this is also built on. Here we can see our average time to resolve. We can see our duration in hours, and we can see our incident breached, and we can also see our first call resolution. I also use this to spot trends. So when I look at this, I will see like these 2 spikes in June and September, and I'll be like, that's pretty weird. But then I will then dive down into the data and try to figure out what's going on here. Why do we have this massive spike that doubles our duration in September compared to August? And I found out that we actually had a technical bug in our ITSM system that I then reported in and got fixed. And you can see that the following months it not only normalized, but it actually dropped even lower. So that's also something that you can use data like this to actually figure out why is something happening, which is very important in this whole adoption environment. In our upcoming next 12 months, what is on the agenda is that I am going continue, I'm going to continue, but I'm also actively right now working on onboarding the rest of the IT department, so I can expand out to the well, what is that? That is the additional 335 IT employees, at least the ones that work with tickets. So probably not all of them, because we do also have someone that doesn't work with tickets. And in that regard, we are also going to introduce the KDE, because the teams that I'm going to onboard is highly specialized and technical domains. So it just makes sense to also get the KDE introduced, like parallel with onboarding these different teams. We're also going to get the publisher role introduced. That it is the next logical maturity step for us in our phase, and also we are going to look into different self-service opportunities, which I will come into in a bit. We will also build a knowledge health dashboard, uh, mainly for the KDEs, but also for me, because right now I am missing the overview of the entire knowledge base. So that is a lot of manual work to go through that, because we have a lot of articles. So that is also something we're going to get built. Then we're also actively working with building an AI chatbot here at the university, and that is going to be on the foundation of the KCS knowledge base. That is also, as I said before, why the publisher is the next maturity step, because when it comes to any form of self-service presentation of our articles, or just any part of our knowledge base, we need a publisher to actually verify everything that is going into both the AI and, at a later point, some sort of self-service presentation. But at the right now, we don't have a self-service, because our current ICSF system is not really built towards that, and it takes a lot of resources to actually get it, which we don't have at the minute because of the administration reform. So the chatbot is going to be our first step towards actually getting our articles to our end users. And then I will also expand on our community of practice. Right now, we have the Coach Council, which is the coaches community. Then we have a KCS Council, and then we have a community of practice for the managers. So they have weekly meetings where they not only talk about KCS but also other things. But that is a big part of their community of practice. And when I kind of look back at this entire adoption so far, and try to see, okay, what was it actually the biggest things, biggest obstacles and barriers for this adoption, there were three things that came to mind that nearly killed the entire project, if not project, the entire adoption. That was when we got the project stop. Uh, Everything, and not just KCS, but this was university-wide. Everything had to stop. Um, but again, we continued because we didn't have that information from the previous sponsor, which was actually a good thing that he forgot to share this bit of information with us. Because if we had stopped, the entire momentum would have fallen apart, and it would have been close to impossible to revive it. People wouldn't believe in it if we actually stopped it halfway through. The next thing that also was a very, very big point is that we had no data. And because we had no data, we didn't have any buy-in, and it was really, really difficult to get buy-in. We couldn't show people the benefit that they brought with doing this work. We couldn't show the managers that it was working. We couldn't really show anything. Everything was based on testimonies from people working with the whole process, and that was also one of the things that actually uh, impressed me that people wanted this so much they actually came up with testimonies themselves, not only when they were asked. But it still didn't help much with the senior management that needs to see data. They need to see the investment actually paying off in some way or form. So yeah, that was also a big one. And then probably the biggest one was myself. I had some theoretical knowledge about KCS, but I had no practical experience in either driving an adoption or yeah, implementing an adoption, basically. So I was very new to everything, and we were getting into a hole that I had very hard time getting the adoption out of. So the whole idea about me trying to revive the adoption, I didn't know how to do that, and that was also one of the points where I just came to the realization that I needed help. It was unrealistic to think that this was going to be a success with me alone. And also, I didn't have a baseline, like we talked about with the data. Baselines are very important. I did not have a baseline for what was, as it also says here, what does good look like. It was just always this just this gut feeling that this looks better than it did yesterday. So something must be right. But it was just everything was just feelings, and I think that this is the right direction. So this was also a very big factor in what they nearly killed everything. If I had gotten a red light or a no to getting a budget to actually get help, we wouldn't be here with KCS today. That would have been dead and gone back then. So that is also a very big thing. And the three key takeaways from this whole adoption that I have is that this is people first. This is a this is change management 101. This is for the people. People. This is also by the people. Um, you cannot run this without actually having the people who are doing the work in on it. They need to actually understand and want to do this, and they need to be supported all the way through, because they are the ones that actually make the adoption live. They are the ones that makes sure that not only that the adoption lives, but that we can grow the adoption and we can show benefits and we can help our end users in a better way than we could before. If they decide to stop, then everything will fall apart. So the people first. That is a very big thing I would take away from this. The next thing, with that said, is also data. This is extremely difficult to actually do anything when you don't have data to show for it. And one thing I would recommend, get your data as early as possible, because that is your baseline for where you were. Um, and the longer you go without data, the more difficult it's going to get to actually keep the momentum, the drive, and the engagement up with everyone who's participating. And you cannot have long-term commitment from anyone if they don't see it pay off in some way or form. If it's someone that can see that this is something that I can see the benefit for me, or I can see the benefit how I help my colleagues or how I help the organization, that's is really up to the individual. But you need something where you can actually show that we are progressing in a positive way. Um, which is also very important. And also, the data also tells you where you should act, what's it called, where you should react
Act
to,
upon.
what you should, yeah, act upon, where should what you should act upon. So if you start to see something in the data like a trend that something is slipping, you can react way quicker, because you can actually react somewhat either proactively, or you can do it when it's happening instead of reactively when it's already happened. And that is also a very big thing for yeah, basically everything that you can when it comes to changes. And the last thing is leadership. We I will be very blunt and say that when I was alone, I did not focus that much on leadership. I was more focused on the employees that was working in the process. And then when we got Caroline Rippl on board, that is where I actually understood the importance of the management group. And we started to talk to them and provide them with what they needed to do. And they actually started to do it and be very transparent about it. And they also were the one that started to celebrate the small victories. And that had a massive impact on the engagement overall. And it really solidified KCS as the day-to-day driver in the IT support. That is what made it become the main way that the IT support works. So that is the three key takeaways from everything I've learned. So um, and that was my talk about the our adoption and what has happened. So yeah.
Patrick, thank you so much. I
You
um I really love the framing of you need to know what is happening in order to figure out why it's happening. So if you
mm,
don't have visibility to what is happening, you can't take action on it, right?
yeah.
You can't go make a change. Um,
No,
the sort of the quote in there about nobody knew what to react to was so interesting to me, just from a we know that there's activity happening, but what am I supposed to do with it or about it, and without seeing
mm,
it, it's hard to know.
yeah.
We're having conversations. Christina is working with a group called Measuring and Communicating Value. This is a collection of consortium members that are working on sort of this question, which is um, anecdotes and stories aren't actionable without the data. And
Mm,
also, we can't just hand people data without explaining to them what the data means, right? So helping people
yeah.
make the connection between this is what we're hearing from the data, and this is what we should do
Mm,
about it. I think is an
yeah.
important connector.
Yeah. You can't tell a story without the content. So yeah.
Yeah. It was also like so interesting at the beginning to like the early discussions were all like, we think, we feel, we got gut feelings that, but we don't know. We really don't know what's going
Yeah.
on.
One of my favorite stories years ago, we did a knowledge domain analysis workshop with a member company, and they got together in a room and started looking at what it was three different pieces of this organization. They started looking at what their call volume really was driven by. And they all sort of anecdotally knew that they had a password reset problem. But when those three lines of business got in the room together and looked at what the actual data said, they were like, right, it was who knows, they got half an hour worth of development time to fix this password reset problem. And all of a sudden, everybody's major call drivers dropped because they knew it sort of just in their hearts. But once they got together and put the data all together, they could say, maybe we should do something about this. So
Yeah.
Eh,
That was actually also one of the fun takeaways when we actually became when we got visibility on the data, is that we, not just me, but the entire senior management group, discovered how poor our data quality in general is. Because it was all of a sudden like when we looked at stuff, could we maybe see some data about this? And I was like no, because everything is in the same category, or everything is just the same. So it's really difficult to actually differentiate between this. But it has also birthed a new thing, that the management is now dependent on data. So now they have actually started multiple projects to make sure that the data quality is elevated across the entire organization. So that is what also came from this, which is just a parallel thing going on. So yeah.
I we have time for some questions. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. If you have them, please feel free to come off mute. Caroline, was there anything that you wanted to chime in about in terms of the process of working through some of this with Patrick?
I think like I've been very lucky with Patrick because he was so eager to learn everything that he was so open-minded. And so there was no resistance or anything working with him. It was amazing. So it was always like, shall we do that? Okay, let's do it. And so it made like the adoption like so smooth because he was so eager. He was so driven to make it work. Yeah, that was an amazing collaboration here.
Yeah. I actually remember one of the first things I think I said to you was that I am willing to change everything.
That's true.
So
That's
yeah,
true.
I was very aware that what we were doing so far was not right, but I didn't know what right was. So I was like, let's change everything if that's what it takes. So yeah.
Yeah. Very open to
Patrick,
getting new ideas and different way of working than they used to be doing. So
yeah,
that helped. And that got also all the support from management also that were also in the same mindset. So that was good. And everyone was ready to learn and want to try to work a different way. So it really helped.
Finn, did you have something to
I think
say?
so. One thing, and I think that you are a little bit underestimating your own role here, Patrick. So what we also see here is the importance of having somebody like you actually driving this. So even though you almost fell down into the rabbit hole, you almost got stopped, etc., you kept on kind of fighting, and I think that this actually goes across a lot of the KCS adoption projects because there is some time until you get to the point where you actually have the data, where you have some people around you that actually can share and show others about, the benefits of a methodology like KCS. So I think that this is also one of the takeaways for projects like this, to have somebody who actually go through, fire and ice to actually bring the message to the management team as well as to your co-workers, because you're dependent on both. And that requires kind of somebody like yourself. So thanks a lot, Patrick.
Thank you.
Last year at Member Summit, we had a conversation in which someone was asking if they needed to have a KCS program manager. And most everyone in the room just said, yes, this isn't even a conversation. You need to have one. And I appreciate so much how you have verbalized that, Finn, in terms of somebody really needs to have the full picture and be able to talk to all of the stakeholders in the system about what it is we're trying to do, kind of holding the vision. It's a big deal.
It's very important you have someone to actually take the reins and try to go forward. And also just to actually, for me, it was also very, it was challenging in a different way because you also had a lot of, we have a lot of managers here at university. So there's also a lot of people that, especially in the management group, that before they actually see the benefit, they like to try to discuss against it. Whereas like, I don't really get that sentiment, but that's okay. But I'm very much a data guy, so I have made sure that everything I said was based on something, which also helped a lot in the discussions with management groups and the senior management, because I could prove everything I was saying, which was a very cool feeling. To actually have, like, I can show you why this is working and why this over here is not working. So yeah, that is also a thing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Patrick and Finn and Caroline. Thanks everybody for joining us today. I'm always so powered up to hear stories of success like this. It's delightful to hear about folks being so thoughtful about how they're approaching these things. And we'll look forward to seeing y'all again soon. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.
And thanks for having me.
You bet. Thanks for being willing.
Of course.